Okay, folks, I'm going to do a little bit of math work for you today. It involves creating um, a right triangle that fits in a square. Now, so we know that if we use Pythagoras' theorem that the square of the base plus the square of the height, take the square root of that, you'll get the diagonal of the triangle. Now, the problem in LightBurn is the triangle tool doesn't create right triangles. It creates kind of a weird looking triangle. So we're going to go through and we're going to create a triangle out of a square. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a rectangle. I'll make it a square. Now, it doesn't matter how big it is right now. And I'm going to make this 100 by 100. Okay, so there's my square. Now what I want to do is I want to create a diagonal or a triangle. I'm going to cut out or have this portion cut out. So obviously one of the obvious things to do is to take your pencil tool. First of all, you know what, I want to make this kind of in the right spot here. So I'm going to even out my measurements. Next question, 80 and 180. I want to put it on a grid. The reason why I put it on a grid is it makes it easier for me to see something later on. So again, let's go back to our pencil tool and we can start, doesn't matter which corner we want to start at. Start this corner and I want to draw a line to that corner. But obviously I missed it, so I'm going to try. This is where, for me, it becomes a little difficult. So let's do this again. Center this. Take our line tool. There we go. That spot there to that spot there. Now, I can take this, and if I use my snipping tool, I can take all this, and if I turn this into fill, you will see that I have a nice perfect triangle. It's a 90-degree corner because the rectangle has a 90-degree corner. And I can measure this. I bring out my measuring tool. 100 by 100. Diagonal is 141.42. So let's verify that. Bring up my calculator, and I'm going to go 100 x squared times 2 equals, and I'm going to take the square root of that, and I get 141. This measurement here, 141.42, and that's what the calculator shows me. That's one way. Okay, so minimize my calculator, turn this back into line mode. Actually, I have to undo this, so let's undo all this. Here's my square. Okay, so let me just slide this over a little bit. Now, as I was saying, the triangle tool doesn't create a nice triangle. It doesn't create a right angle triangle. So how do we do this? Well, first thing, we know this is 100 by 100. So if I take my triangle and make sure it's unlocked, width of 100, height of 100. And I know my position, so 180 by 80. So if I put my triangle, let's put it change its position to 180. And I'm going to put my position, my X position, once again, it's going to be 80, which is the lower left corner. Oops, I did this wrong. Let's go back and fix this. 180, should have done the X position first. And there's a triangle inside my rectangle. Well, that's kind of nice. Now, once again, I want this to be a right angle in this corner, or I can make it this corner. Doesn't matter which one. So for now, I'm going to turn my triangle into, I want to put it on a different layer so we can see that's actual triangle. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Now with the triangle selected, we can use the warp tool. So let's go look at our tools and warp selection. Now this gives me the blue dots indicate where the outline of this is. So I want to take this upper left blue dot and I want to marry it exactly where that upper right blue dot is. And go, okay, it's there. Now remember, we had to have a width of, I should put this in here, I think it was 20,000 square root, oops, not square root, okay, square root, 141.421. Okay, so let's see if my measurement works out along this line, 141.42, which is really, really close. That's what my calculator gives me, 1.42. Well, that's pretty close. Okay, so I can now have a nice right triangle. And my base and my height are equal, and I have a nice diagonal. So why would you want to do this? Well, let's go back to my square. Let's take my triangle and move it out of the way. And it's going to do something here real quick. I'm going to create, once again, I want to make these nice even measurements. So I'm using this position tool so I can position things nicely. And I'm going to duplicate this. And I'm going to move it to about center. 8190, that's fine. And now this triangle is too big, so I want it to fit in here. Well, that's fine. Now I should be able to scale this. So we know the width is 1, 10, 20, 30, 50. If I take my triangle and I scale this to 50, and I can position it to, it's got my grid here. I want to position this triangle so that it is X position is 30 because I think of this square is 30. Yep. So I want to put 30 and I want to put the height at 240. So let's go position this. I want to position that X position at 30 and 240, which is where it was before. I can take this and I can duplicate it. Can bring it down here. And I want to flip it horizontal, and then flip it vertical, and now it sits in this corner. And I can take it once again, I can duplicate this, and I can bring it up. Once again, I know my grid, so that's 130 by 280, I believe, is the top there. Okay, let's go here. Let's go 130. And, 240. And now I have a box. I have a cube. What can I do with my cube, you say? Well, that's easy enough to do. Take my scissors tool, and I can delete the lines that are inside my cube. Now I have a cube. Now it's not in perspective. This was in perspective. The back cube would be slightly smaller, off to what we call a vanishing point in geometry. And then my triangles that I use would have to match that height, which can be done. But for now, I just wanted to create a cube. Now, if I set this to fill, The only thing that fills is the front edge, which was my original rectangle. Well, that's not very cool. So one of the techniques I've used before is I select everything, use my offset tool. I'm going to go both. I'm going to make a really, really small outer shapes, delete my original. Okay, and then fill. And if I zoom in, if I leave this back into line mode, there's my cube. And it has a nice thin border for what I would need to do later on. So say I wanted to make this a die, I can then figure out what face these three faces showing would be. Then I could flip it around, and the hidden faces, the one at the left side, the back, and the bottom. Well, once again, something that you should be aware of if you actually need right triangles. There's two ways of doing it. You can do the mathematical way. You can do this inside a perfect square, or you can have a perfect square and then do a triangle inside, and then using the warp tool to actually fit the one corner of the triangle to fit inside that rectangle, and then you have a triangle. So I hope this was informative for you, because I think that this is a nice application of building using a rectangle and a triangle to create a cube. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.